you're welcome back. Let's go on a mini world tour. The Sydney Opera House, the Niagara Falls, the Leaning Tower of Pisa, 3 international heritage sites which will be lit up green this Wednesday to mark St. Patrick's Day. But, according to our next guest, the hard work Ireland puts into this annual initiative stands in marked contrast to what he calls our lacklustre efforts to win global recognition for heritage sites right here at home in Ireland. Just 2 heritage sites in the Republic are listed as UNESCO World Heritage Sites. They are Skellig Vigil or Skellig Michael and Brú-na-Bóinne, which includes Newgrange. 7 further sites were proposed by Ireland for consideration 10 years ago, but Clare TD Michael McNamara says we've done very little since then to progress those applications.
First of all, it is about, I suppose, international prestige and drawing attention to your patrimony, as other countries have done by seeking and obtaining that designation, like the sites that you mentioned, the Pyramids in Giza, the Leaning Tower of Pisa, all of these international sites, the Sydney Opera House. It's sites that are of either built heritage, like the Sydney Opera House, or natural heritage, like the Burn is put on the tentative list, but while it did get geopark status, hasn't progressed to UNESCO heritage status. There's a certain type of visitor that seeks out these sites and visits them. In 2010, a survey was done by Tourism Ireland, which found that heritage tourism was worth $2 billion to the Irish economy, but perhaps most importantly, that heritage tourists spent twice as much during their visits to Ireland as, for example, people
so
coming on
they're high-value tourists as well. It doesn't automatically follow that just because you're on the UNESCO list that you'll get more visitors, because, for example, Brú-na-Bóinne is on the UNESCO list, but Doneraile or Glendalough, they get more visitors.
Yeah, I mean, being on the list also involves protecting the site and developing it in a way that protects it. Now, obviously, the OPW is very protective, and rightly so, of Brú-na-Bóinne or Newgrange, and only opens it up for a very limited number of people, as indeed is the case with Skellig Michael. It's open for a limited period of time, for a limited number of visits, because you don't want to destroy that which is the object of the tourism. I mean, that's a problem around the world. Over tourism can be a problem, but at the end of the day, people do visit areas because of these sites, to visit them, but also to visit the general area, find out more about them, and find out more about the civilization that they inspired. For example, there are far more than 7 sites included in the 7 that you mentioned. There are groups of sites like early monastic sites, which includes Clonmacnoise, Glendalough, Inishcaltra, and Lough Derg, which is very near where I live myself. There are western stone forts, including the well-known Dún Aonghasa on Inishmore, but equally other less well-known forts like Carcamon and the Burn or Stag in Kerry.
Okay, so Michael, what are you saying that should be happening here then? Because I think you're saying that local authorities might be partly to blame for us not having...
Sorry, I'm not saying local authorities are to blame. When I last raised this in the Dáil with the interim government before the new government was elected in June, but when I raised it previously in 2015, I was told by the minister that local authorities had expressed a lack of interest in progressing it in respect of Clonmacnoise and in respect of the Western Stone Forts in Kerry. So I mean, I'm not saying that that's what the minister is saying, but what I am saying is that it is for the department to put forward designations that will work and to put forward like-minded sites from local authorities that want to progress them for various reasons. I mean, Sligo local authority, for example, earlier this year indicated that it did want to progress Neolithic sites in Sligo, like Queen Maeve's Cairn and megalithic cemeteries of Carramore and Carrakeel. So there are local authorities that do want to move forward sites in their area. I
mean, the invitation is out there. It's open for local authorities to step up.
And I very much hope they do. And once they do step up, then I hope that the department progress the list and actively engage with the local authorities, but also with UNESCO, to get these sites on a list, because by and large, they do bring an increase in international attention, just as greening the Leaning Tower of Pisa and does that, and it creates, the purpose of that, I suppose, is to create an increased awareness of Ireland and the heritage and culture of Ireland. That's the greening I'm talking about. Yeah. It doesn't cost a lot of money, but it does, I'd imagine, take a huge amount of time to organise all of that. And likewise, with regard to this designation, I don't think it would cost a huge amount of money. But
what I'm hearing is that you're accusing the government and those in power of leprechaun hypocrisy in a way.
Well, I don't think I'd put it quite as strongly as you're putting it, but I mean, I do think that what we do abroad has to be matched by what we do at home. We do need to act to promote these sites. I mean, Clare County Council, in respect of Inishcaltra, which is near me, is engaging in a very ambitious plan to develop it, but to develop it in a way that's sympathetic and doesn't damage it in any way. Now, that will obviously increase awareness of the early monastic tradition in East Clare, and there's also a monastic tradition in the islands of West Clare, like Scattery. So I think that needs to be promoted, but it also needs to be protected, because I mean, if you get mass tourism in a site like that, you're going to kill the goose that lays the golden eggs. You're going to destroy what you're seeking to promote, and we can't have that. So UNESCO does offer a lot of advice around protecting that. Now, that may involve fairly restrictive planning. Now, that's, I accept, easier to do with
that's
regard to an island than it is something like Clonmacnoise. But equally, I mean, I visited Clonmacnoise. Most people will be aware of it. It's a fantastic site. Typically, our universities are far newer than universities across Europe, but Clonmacnoise was a seat of learning in medieval Europe.
Well, do you know what? If anything, people should go and visit these sites when they have a chance, when the 5K and the restrictions are lifted. But look, for the moment, we'll leave it there. Michael McNamara, Independent TD for Cunday and Clore. Thank you very much indeed. We'll take a break.